The fifth rejection letter arrived folded neatly inside the same plain white envelope as the others. 5 identical words burned deeper than any insult ever could: loan application declined. Across town, executives barely glanced at the file before moving on to million-dollar investments, never imagining that the worn-out garage they had dismissed would one day become the only reason their company remained alive. Elliot Granger folded the letter carefully instead of throwing it away. His 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, had learned to recognize those envelopes long ago. She looked at his tired smile and quietly placed a peanut butter sandwich beside his toolbox without saying a word. Children often sensed heartbreak better than adults, and she knew her father needed hope more than explanations. The garage stood on the edge of a quiet American town, squeezed between an aging bakery and an abandoned furniture warehouse. The faded sign above the entrance had once belonged to Elliot's late father, who had spent 40 years repairing engines, tractors, generators, and anything else people believed was beyond saving. When his father passed away, Elliot inherited little more than rusty tools, unpaid bills, and a promise whispered beside a hospital bed that honest work always found its reward, even if it arrived late. Since losing his wife to a sudden illness 3 years earlier, Elliot had raised Hazel alone. Every morning began before sunrise, though all of the story unfolded beneath bright daylight. Breakfast was simple, school drop-offs were filled with forced smiles, and long hours followed inside the noisy garage where grease stained his hands but never his character. He repaired vehicles for farmers who could barely pay, elderly neighbors who trusted no one else, and struggling families who often left with smaller bills than they expected because Elliot quietly removed labor charges when he knew they needed groceries more than he needed money. His dream extended far beyond fixing engines. Over years of experimentation, he had designed an innovative modular electric drive system capable of transforming old industrial equipment into efficient, low-cost machines. It was practical, affordable, and exactly what small manufacturers needed. Unfortunately, innovation required funding, and funding required someone willing to believe. That someone never seemed to exist. At Sterling Horizon Capital, Chief Executive Officer Celeste Rowan had earned a reputation for making cold, data-driven decisions. Investors praised her discipline because emotions never appeared in her boardroom. Every proposal became numbers, probabilities, and projected returns. She had built one of the country's fastest-growing financial firms by avoiding risk, and Elliot's application represented everything she avoided. A single father. No wealthy partners. A tiny garage. An unfinished prototype. 5 separate reviews had ended with the same conclusion. Too risky. Each rejection hurt, but Elliot refused to surrender. Instead of replacing expensive equipment, he built his own. Instead of hiring engineers, he spent evenings studying technical journals while Hazel colored pictures beside him. Instead of complaining about rejection, he improved the design one small step at a time. Months turned into years, word quietly spread about the impossible repairs performed inside Granger Garage. Farmers drove from neighboring counties. Construction companies brought broken machinery everyone else had declared worthless. Elliot's modifications reduced fuel costs dramatically, and customers noticed. Local business owners began asking whether he could adapt the technology to larger equipment that he never advertised. Satisfied customers became his marketing department. A regional manufacturing cooperative eventually offered him a chance no bank ever had. They proposed funding a pilot project in exchange for licensing rights if the technology succeeded. The agreement wasn't glamorous, but it gave Elliot exactly what he needed: belief. The first converted machine reduced operating costs by nearly 40%, the second performed even better. Soon additional factories requested conversions. Orders multiplied faster than Elliot could complete them. He hired unemployed mechanics from surrounding towns, trained recent trade school graduates, and expanded into the abandoned warehouse next door. What had once been a lonely garage slowly transformed into Granger Industrial Solutions, a thriving manufacturing company built upon honesty, reliability, and relentless persistence. Hazel watched every milestone from the front office where she completed homework after school. She remembered every rejection letter stored inside an old shoebox because her father insisted they remain there. He called them reminders rather than failures. Every envelope represented another reason to improve. 5 years after the final rejection, Granger Industrial Solutions employed more than 800 people. Their modular technology revolutionized affordable industrial modernization for thousands of small businesses that could never afford expensive replacements. Communities flourished because factories remained open instead of closing. Families stayed employed. Entire towns regained economic stability. Success never changed Elliot. He still walked through the factory shaking hands with employees every morning. He still fixed broken equipment himself whenever technicians became overwhelmed. He still packed Hazel's lunch, attended every school event, and remembered the names of every worker's children. Across the state, Sterling Horizon Capital faced its greatest crisis. A global economic downturn exposed weaknesses inside one of the company's largest investments. Several high-risk acquisitions collapsed almost simultaneously. Cash reserves disappeared. Investors demanded immediate restructuring. Hundreds of employees feared losing their jobs. Celeste Rowan spent exhausting daylight hours moving between emergency meetings searching for solutions that seemed impossible. Ironically, the only division inside her company showing consistent growth involved financing sustainable manufacturing technologies. One name appeared repeatedly during internal discussions: Granger Industrial Solutions. Independent analysts described Elliot's company as one of the most financially stable manufacturers in the region. Revenue continued climbing despite economic uncertainty because businesses desperately needed affordable modernization instead of expensive replacements. An advisor quietly suggested approaching Elliot regarding a strategic investment. Silence filled the conference room. Only then did someone retrieve old lending records. 5 Rejected applications. 5 Missed opportunities. Celeste stared at Elliot's original file for the first time instead of relying upon summarized recommendations. She saw photographs of the tiny garage. She saw handwritten technical notes. She saw references praising his integrity. She saw determination hidden beneath modest financial statements. For the first time in years, numbers felt painfully human. She requested a meeting. When Elliot received the invitation, he paused for several minutes before responding. Hazel, now a confident young woman preparing for college, noticed the familiar company logo printed across the letter. She remembered it immediately. Instead of encouraging revenge, she simply smiled. Her father had raised her to understand that bitterness only chained people to yesterday. The meeting occurred inside Granger Industrial Solutions headquarters, built only a short walk from the original garage that remained preserved exactly as it had been. Elliot insisted every new employee tour the old building during orientation because he believed success meant nothing if people forgot where it began. Celeste arrived expecting resentment. Instead, she found kindness. She noticed the original rejection letters framed quietly along one hallway beside photographs of employees, community projects, and scholarship recipients. Under the letters rested a simple plaque explaining that every closed door had encouraged the company to build its own entrance. No anger. No mockery, only perspective. As they toured the factory, Celeste watched skilled workers operating advanced machinery developed from ideas once dismissed as unrealistic. She met employees who spoke about Elliot with genuine admiration rather than fear. She saw daycare facilities for working parents, technical training classrooms, and wellness programs funded directly by company profits. This business had become far more than a manufacturing company. It had become a community. Eventually they sat together overlooking the production floor where hundreds of people worked confidently beneath bright afternoon sunlight. Celeste admitted what few executives ever confessed: she had been wrong, not simply about one loan, she had been wrong about how she measured potential. She explained that Sterling Horizon Capital faced devastating financial pressure. Without significant investment, layoffs would become unavoidable. Thousands of ordinary employees who had played no role in past decisions risked losing livelihoods. Elliot listened quietly. He remembered sleepless afternoons wondering how to buy groceries after each rejection. He remembered Hazel pretending not to notice overdue bills. He remembered every disappointment, but he also remembered something stronger: compassion. He understood that innocent employees should never suffer because leadership had made poor choices. Several weeks later, financial news stunned the business world. Granger Industrial Solutions acquired a controlling investment in Sterling Horizon Capital, providing enough capital to stabilize operations, protect employees, and restore investor confidence. Headlines celebrated one astonishing detail: the little garage once denied 5 small loans now financed the survival of the entire corporation that had rejected it. Reporters expected Elliot to celebrate revenge. Instead, he held a press conference inside the original garage. He spoke about perseverance instead of pride. He explained that rejection had forced creativity, discipline, and independence. Had the first loan been approved, perhaps he would never have developed the stronger business that ultimately existed. He thanked every mechanic who believed in impossible repairs. He thanked every customer who trusted a struggling father. Most importantly, he thanked Hazel for believing in him when rejection seemed endless. Listening nearby, many employees quietly wiped away tears. Celeste remained in her leadership role under the new partnership, but her management philosophy changed completely. Loan evaluations expanded beyond financial ratios to include character, community impact, and long-term vision. Young entrepreneurs previously overlooked received opportunities that traditional models ignored. One afternoon she visited the preserved garage alone. Sunlight streamed through dusty windows exactly as it had years earlier. The old workbench remained covered with carefully organized tools. She realized that greatness rarely announced itself wearing expensive suits or occupying impressive offices. Sometimes it waited patiently inside an ordinary garage where a determined parent refused to surrender. Hazel eventually graduated with honors in engineering and joined the company, not because she inherited it, but because she genuinely believed in its mission. Together, father and daughter launched educational programs teaching practical innovation to students from struggling communities, proving that talent could emerge anywhere if someone chose to believe. Before we reach the end of this journey, take a moment to leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe perseverance or forgiveness is the greater strength when life treats us unfairly. Your thoughts may encourage someone who needs hope today. Years later, visitors touring the company headquarters always stopped longest inside the tiny garage that remained untouched. Children stared at faded tools. Entrepreneurs studied the framed rejection letters. Parents smiled at photographs of a father and daughter refusing to give up. The building reminded everyone that dreams rarely begin inside luxury offices. They begin wherever courage decides failure will not write the final chapter. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. As the afternoon sun bathed the old garage in warm golden light, Elliot quietly locked the familiar wooden door and looked across the thriving campus that had grown from a place the world once considered worthless. Wealth had changed his circumstances, but never his heart. The greatest victory was never becoming successful enough to rescue the company that had rejected him. It was becoming kind enough to do it without asking for anything in return. In the end, the rejected loan was forgotten, the forgiveness was remembered, and one ordinary father's unwavering hope became the foundation upon which thousands of families built brighter futures.